Hi guys, we're live. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dutchess. This is my channel, Dutchess Divinity, and we do lots of stuff here, but today we're going to be doing a tarot card reading and Reiki to help you choose yourself. So I just turned the chat off so I don't get distracted. And yeah, I'll say my little prayers while we wait for people to come in, and then we'll get right into the message that I have today, because maybe it's not what you would expect. So, benevolent guides, guardians, ancestors, angels, star family, higher self, Yeshua, Baal, Ra, Yamaya, Kornika, and God Source, I just say thank you so much, and please just allow me to be the channel through which these messages flow. And I ask that all the messages come from the source from which all things come, and flow through Christ consciousness. Amon Ra. So, yeah. All right. I just wanted to say a quick little prayer before we get into it. So, I've noticed in the spiritual community that so much of the time people are telling you to not choose sides or to be neutral or, to lose your ego, to not be selfish, this and that. And all of that is good in theory, right? But here I'm telling you today that you should choose sides, and it's not the side that you might think. I'm telling you to choose the side of yourself, to choose yourself, to put yourself first, to take care of your needs. And I think the simplest example, hi, guys are coming in. Please like so more people get notified of the live. But so the best example I can give of this is like when you're on the airplane and they tell you to put your mask on first, right? Because if you're a parent and you have your child with you and you lose the air pressure within the cabin and you don't put your mask on first and you get no oxygen, you're going to pass out, and then you'll be useless to your child, and then your child will also not be, safe and healthy. So we use that example, right? And like the very like typical spiritual way that people put it is like, make sure that you're filling your cup so that you actually have something to pour from. But what Spirit always gives me, hi Sunday saying hello. What Spirit always gives me is like the idea of the mask on the plane, because, if you don't take care of yourself, it does get to a point where you really, not only can you not take care of yourself, but you can't take care of others either. Now Ice Cream is here. Say hi, Ice Cream. Hi. Say hi, Sunday. Hi, Sunday. The babies. They kept me up all night last night, you guys. Oh my god. It was driving me insane. They just kept me up all night. But anyway, yeah, so I am here to tell you to choose sides today. And I'm also here to tell you to choose the side of like righteousness, truth, and morality. Because like on my last live, remember I was like talking all about my feelings about like, the really toxic OF culture and like hookup culture that we're experiencing in this reality right now, with like the Bonnie Blues and the Lily Phillips and everything like that. And like I don't feel like it's wrong to choose a side in that kind of an argument, and to like call out this really degenerate behavior and like stand on the side of morality and like just what's objectively right and what's objectively wrong, especially when it gets to the point where we're experiencing like these people having predatory behavior towards barely legal kids. I think that it's like there are certain things that you really do need to choose sides on today, which is not something that you're told. Like in the spiritual community, they say, oh, don't pick sides, like be very neutral. But it's like there's certain things that like you just really need to choose a side on, right? Like with human trafficking or like the PEDO stuff, like you really do need to choose a side, and you need to choose the side of like that's horrible and we don't accept that in society because that's just morally wrong. So yeah, I do think it's important to choose sides, but I think the most important side that you can choose during these very tumultuous times is the side of yourself. And they're giving me that song, "The Man in the Mirror" by Michael Jackson. Thanks for the likes, guys. Please remember to like the video if you like what I'm saying, so more people get notified. Anyway, it's like I'm starting with the man in the mirror, right? Because there's all these things that we're experiencing today, especially today, like in 2025, where it's like there's a lot that's outside of our control. There's a lot that's going on in the world that you and I don't really have a lot of say over. Like, yeah, we can share our opinions and we can protest and we can do these different things, but at the end of the day, a lot of the power resides in the the hands of the perceived authority of the world leaders and the governments, right? So it's like when you can't control a lot of these things outside of yourself, the best thing that you can do is work on yourself and choose yourself. Thanks for the likes, guys. Choose yourself, put yourself first, and then it's like when you're doing the inner work and when you're changing, and it's like the serenity prayer, right? It's like, I don't know the exact serenity prayer, but it's like, God give me the strength to change the things I can, accept the things I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? And so we really are living in a time where that is so applicable, and where we really do need to put that into practice, and that we do need to choose ourselves. And choosing yourself doesn't always mean like, you know, like being like gentle with yourself or things like that. Like, yeah, sometimes it can mean that, but other times it means like kind of being hard on yourself and taking radical responsibility. And, you know, I did want to kind of give this concept because I think it can help a lot of people, because I was having these feelings recently, and my friend was saying that she just, you know, so she's making different choices in her life because she doesn't like where she's at, and there was a lot of negative experiences that she had been having in her current reality, which made her say, like, I do need to change some things, and I do need to make some different choices. And so in realizing that, she was still having a lot of negative kickback from her current reality, because the poor choices that she made in the past had led her to where she is in the present. So even though you choose to make different decisions in the future, sometimes you still have to deal with the repercussions of your present moment. And she was talking about how even though she feels like she's making healthier choices now and has decided to like do better things, she feels like God is punishing her because, you know, things keep going wrong in her current reality. And so basically what I was saying to her is like, you know, and I'm not going to give like details about her situation because it's personal, but I was basically explaining to her, like, God isn't punishing you. Like, a lot of the times we punish ourselves, and by making these choices, right? So it's like how she could admit that she had made some choices that led her into a bad position in her life, to then feel like she was being punished by God, when in reality it was like God had given her, God as you perceive God, we don't have to see God the same way, but it was like God had given her an opportunity to make a different choice, but she made the same choice that kept her in the same cycle, and then she felt like she's being punished. And it's like, no, you're not being punished like by God. You punished yourself. Like, you self-harmed, and you made the same decision that got you in the bad position in the first place, so then you ended up in the same cycle, having the same repercussion on the other end of this never-ending cycle, right? And the only way to end karmic cycles, or to end ancestral curses like within your bloodline, or within like what you're experiencing within yourself, is to make a different choice. And so like, let's give the example of like when Cornica passed away. I felt like God was like punishing me. I felt horrible. I felt like, why can I help all these people and heal all these people and do all this stuff for other people, but I can't help or heal my own cat? And the truth of that is, it was nobody's fault. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of balls dropped by the vet over the last couple of years, but at the end of the day, I can sit here and point the finger at them, but it's only going to make me more angry and full of like hatred. So it's like just realizing like Cornica was sick, her body gave out on her, and you know, it's not because God was punishing me. It's not because, you know, it's God trying to teach me a lesson. It's literally just the fact that, like, if you're going to live, you're going to have to experience death, because that the way my mom put it is like, death is the price of life. So like, if you are going to be here experiencing life, like people and pets and different, you know, living creatures are going to pass away somewhere along the line, and someday you'll pass away somewhere along the line, and that's just the price of life. And so it was like realizing, like, you know, I'm not being punished. Like, this is just a part of life. Cornica's body gave out on her due to her illness, and that's that. And, you know, it couldn't have been stopped. I gave her the, you know, most gentle, because, you know, I did have to put her down and everything. So it was like, I gave her the most gentle crossover, and I got to let her say goodbye to my parents, because she really loved my parents. And so it was like we got to have the best experience we could have while putting down a pet. And so that's something to be grateful for, and that's not a punishment. That was a gift. And just realizing that, like, sometimes life just sucks, and it doesn't mean that like you're being punished. It's just part of life, right? And then too, I just kept staying in that frequency of feeling like I'm being punished by God and everything's bad by my choices. Like, I was choosing to eat a bunch of food that was bad for me, including food that I'm like allergic to, like gluten and stuff like that. I was choosing to, you know, lay in my bed all day instead of going and working out, when I know that working out not only helps my physical well-being, but it helps my mental health. I was choosing to focus only on the bad and not look at any of the good. Thanks for the likes, guys. It makes me feel good when you guys like appreciate what I'm saying, because it is really vulnerable to share all this stuff all the time. But anyway, so it was like I said, you know what, I'm gonna use the portal that is the new year, and I'm gonna use it as a launching pad, and I'm gonna start making better choices. I'm gonna start eating healthier. I joined a gym, and you know, I started to get back to work, which was really good for me. Like, I definitely needed the break. I 100% needed a break, especially with the work I do, because it's very intensive. But it felt good once I was ready to like get back to work, get back on YouTube, get back to my like private readings and private spell work, and get back on the Patreon and everything along those lines. So it was like I was able to release the feeling of being punished by an unforgiving God and look at things from a bigger picture objectively and say, wait a minute, there's a lot I can actually be grateful for in this situation. And then it's like the more you're noticing that, the more synchronicities that you start to see and experience, not only because God, as you perceive God, is like, okay, well, she's listening now, I can send her more messages, but also if you just want to use a scientific version of it, like our subconscious seeks to prove itself correct. So if your subconscious is in a position where it's constantly looking to find the ways that like life is hurting you or bringing you down, then your subconscious is going to continue to seek that in outside forces. If you shift that inner dialogue and say, hey, maybe things are actually starting to go right for me, your subconscious is going to try and prove that to you and start to show you the other ways in your life that things are going right for you. So it's really about like turning this switch in your mind and shifting the subconscious, which is why I talked in a couple lives about a couple past lives about like subliminals and stuff, because the wiring of your subconscious really is what's ruling the way you perceive the world. So, and that's the thing about the subconscious, right, is it's unconscious. It's unconscious mind. It's not conscious mind. So it's not like you're doing this on purpose. I certainly wasn't purposefully trying to feel punished by God. I wasn't purposefully trying to make myself feel like shit, but I was. And then it was like I had to realize that, be kind to myself still, but also take radical responsibility, crack the whip on myself a little bit and say, okay, enough is enough. Make a different choice, right? And so that's kind of like what I'm here saying today, is like it is kind of important to choose sides, like I was saying, in certain areas of life as to what's moral and what's not. And it's also important to choose the side of like you having a long, healthy, successful life. Because as my friend was like telling me what she's going through and how she was like kind of feeling punished by God or feeling like, why aren't things working out for me? It was like she wasn't really thinking ahead. And so it's like in the past, when she was making these decisions that were digging her into a hole, it was like she wasn't thinking about the future. So she was just thinking about that moment and making a decision in that moment. And so it's like about taking radical responsibility and looking ahead and making decisions that are not just going to like serve you through instant gratification, which is exactly what we're being programmed with social media, with like the likes and with the 7-second TikTok videos. Like the best videos on TikTok are only 7 seconds. Like they've really destroyed our attention span over the last 4 years, which is by design. They do that on purpose, right? So it's like, it's about like consciously recognizing that like we're living in a time of instant gratification, but instant gratification doesn't get you anywhere. And I just heard that saying that's like, give a man a fish and he'll eat for one night. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for the rest of his life. So it's like one of those things where you have to be kind to yourself still, but be hard enough on yourself that you're taking like radical responsibility and you're saying, these are the choices I'm making that are hurting me. This is the cycle that I keep falling into over and over again that's hurting me. And saying, I'm going to make a different choice. And as I spoke about in the beginning, that doesn't mean that you overhaul your life in one day. Like how I was saying, when I joined the gym, they were trying to get me to get a personal trainer and a nutritionist and this and that. And it's like, no, when you are making a different choice, make it one choice at a time, because you're setting yourself up for failure if you just try to like wipe everything clean and you're not prepared for that kind of a quantum leap. Because everybody wants to talk about quantum quantum leaps in the spiritual community, nobody talks about how painful they are sometimes, or how stressful they are, or how much of a toll it takes on your body, mind, and soul and your environment, or your relationships. Like, quantum leaping is not always comfortable, especially if, like, you're quantum leaping, like, in a way where it's like you're like leaving a person, like getting out of a relationship, or you're moving, like, and now it's like suddenly overnight you feel like everything's changed. Or like, I quantum leaped against my will when Cornica passed away. I landed on a different timeline when Cornica was alive one day, and then I had to put her down the next day, you know what I mean? Like 2 weeks before I left for my sister's wedding, everything was fine with Corn, and then I come back and I'm like having to make the decision to put down my best friend and my familiar, my baby, my cat. And so it's like, quantum leaping is not comfortable, and it ain't for the weak. And I feel like that's what nobody talks about. Like, everyone talks about how they want to quantum leap, and they're only talking about, oh yeah, I'm gonna quantum leap and I'm gonna be a millionaire and I'm gonna be this and I'm gonna be that. But it's like, what are you sacrificing on your way to like what it is that you're trying to create? So it's like, that's why I'm saying, like, take it one step at a time, because quantum leaping, like I said, is not for the weak, and it ain't for everybody. Thank you for the likes. But yeah, so I am telling you, make a choice and do what's right. Like, do what's moral, pick the side of morality as you perceive morality. I think there are several situations, though, that it's like, you know, there's no reason why you should be choosing the other side. Like I was saying, whether it's with like trafficking or the PEDO stuff, like that's just objectively like you're either a good person or a bad person, and you either don't support human trafficking and all that crap, or you do, and there's no in between. So I did kind of want to say that, because the spiritual community is all about like neutrality and like 0 point frequency, which is great in like, you know, everyday stuff, but not when it comes to crimes against humanity. Then you really do have to pick a side. And then the other side that I was saying that you should pick is like the side of yourself, like choosing you. And I've noticed a lot of my clients and my friends and myself have been having experiences recently where it's like people are showing their true colors. Like, believe people when they show you who they are. Believe them even more when they tell you and show you who they are. Like, and it's time. Like I was saying, if you are quantum leaping or you are slowly shifting your reality, there's going to be some sacrifices that need to be made. And sometimes that's your friend or your boyfriend or your job that are just no longer in alignment with you, and you haven't been happy in those situations for a long time anyway. Like how I was saying, like I had to make a different choice to like start working out and eating healthier. Like I had to let go of those habits that I'd been crutching on for the last couple months because they weren't doing me any favors anyway. I was actually happy to leave that shit behind because it was just holding me back. So it's like choosing yourself. And also too, if you have people in your life that you're like not, like you don't want to directly cut them out of your life, but you're like suspicious, like you don't know if they're actually in alignment with you, or like your job, like whatever it is, if you feel like there are things or people in your life that are just not in alignment with you, I want you to ask Spirit or God, as you perceive God, like, just show me who this person is. Show me what their intent is. I did that recently because there was someone that I was just getting really bad vibes from, that I was just like feeling like I did not want in my frequency anymore. And this goes back to like something we've been talking about recently with the Patreon and stuff about like monitoring spirits, and what I've called them in the past on my channel is agents. So basically, if someone's in like a low frequency, like let's say somebody's doing drugs or drinking, like they're in a state of addiction in one way, or maybe they're a shopaholic, but you know, the spirit of addiction is a very low frequency and you can be addicted to anything. That makes people like open portals for these like lower frequencies to come in, whether it's spirits or just like the overarching energies of this negativity, right? Because it's like, I don't know about you, but I've never met an alcoholic that's all sunshines and rainbows, right? They kind of like, maybe sometimes they're nice, but sometimes they're fucking terrible, right? That's what makes them have an addiction, because their addiction is hurting them in their life in one way or another, and usually hurting others. So it's like, even if they're not bringing in like negative spirits, they're bringing in that bad energy, that bad frequency, like, you know, and you don't even have to have an addiction to like, obviously, to have that frequency. Like, let's say you're just a miserable person and for some reason like misery loves company, so it's like let's just use the example that it's like your dad, and you're every day at home, it's like such a happy environment until your dad gets home from work, and then you're fucking walking on eggshells. Like, as soon as your dad walks through the door, it's like that frequency is just, it's shitty, and it's not doing anybody any favors. So what I did when I was getting like the bad vibes, or like I've noticed too, like in my life personally, and maybe this will be like reflective for others, thanks for the likes, guys, covert narcissism, you know, like the weaponizing of kindnesses done for you in the past. So like, you know, narcissists love to do that. It's like they fix your walkway, and then you're like you know, trying to bring up something to them about like the behavior that you don't like, and they're like, well, I fixed your walkway. And it's like, okay, well, we're not talking about my walkway. We're talking about this really creepy, weird, fucked up thing that you just did that made me uncomfortable, and I'm trying to tell you that made me uncomfortable, but instead you're turning around your bad behavior and you're putting on me, like you're reminding me you did something for me. So it's like weaponized, you know, acts of service, weaponized affection. My abusive ex used a lot of weaponized affection on me. So like he would like scream at me or like abuse me, and then he'd like hug me and hold me and stuff. And so like that's really confusing. But then it's like the covert narcissism of like, what do you mean I just like yelled at you? Well, I hugged you after, didn't I? You know what I mean? So it's just like, I've noticed a lot of covert narcissism of like the weaponized acts of service, weaponized affection, weaponized gift giving, you know, or just like being like, in my life, this is what I've noticed personally, or just being like, oh, well, that, like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm not sorry for what I did. Like, I feel like, oh, God, if you've ever gotten that, dude, I'm thinking, like, my brain is running through all the time some asshole just said to me, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but that's, like, not actually how it went down. And it's like, what do you mean, like, you're sorry I feel the way about, like, your bad behavior? Like, I feel like you should be sorry that you had the behavior, not sorry that, like, I'm upset about the behavior. I don't know. I've just noticed a lot of that in my life recently, and I've just had to be, like, because I am susceptible to that, because, you know, I experienced a lot of abuse in my childhood, and I did have this abusive relationship, and so sometimes, you know, that makes you susceptible because of what you've been through. And then if you want to talk about it on a spiritual level, it messes with your aura. So then your auric field is shifted to being like open to this kind of frequency, and that's why it's like you keep attracting the same person in a different body with the same toxic behaviors, because it's literally within your auric signature. And it's not only in your auric signature, it's like got you brainwashed from like what you've been through. And then also too, like the body keeps the score, right? So like trauma lives in the physical body, so it's got you body, mind, and soul. And that's why it's important to like do the full layers of like the mental health healing, the body healing, and the spiritual healing. But you know, I was just suspicious about certain people, and like and just because someone's your family, guys, does not mean that like you need to have a relationship with them. Just because someone's, you know, been your friend for the last 10 years, just because you're like have a loyalty doesn't mean that they're actually loyal to you. Like, because, like, that happened a lot with my abusive ex. Like, he'd be like, oh, but, like, these have been my friends for, like, 10 years. And I'm like, yeah, and they've been consistently, like, you know, doing drugs, or consistently, like, they use you for, like, rides, or they use you for money. And it's like, just because someone's been in your life for a long time does not mean that they're a good friend. Like, loyalty and longevity do not equate to proper behavior. And I think that gets lost in translation sometimes. And also, too, like, just because someone was nice to you, like, a couple weeks ago doesn't mean that, like, their intention towards you hasn't changed up. And I think that's where people get tripped up, too, because it's like, but we were so close at one point. And it's like, yeah, but, like, now they actually are wishing you negatively, or they're using you, or they're stealing from you, right? Or they're, and you someone doesn't have to just steal, like, from you, like from your wallet. Like, yeah, that's stealing too, or like stealing from your house or whatever, but people can steal your energy, people can steal your ideas, people can steal your like try to ride off your coattails and steal your frequencies, there's a lot of shit you can steal. So it's like we have to open our minds to see that like these because something I really didn't understand before I was in my extremely abusive relationship was that abuse is not linear, and that neither is PTSD or like like how your subconscious gets rewired. Because like before I went to therapy, I thought only veterans could have PTSD. Like, that's how ill-informed I was. So when I was diagnosed with it, I was like, but I've never been to war. Like, literally, like, I laugh now, but that's actually how I thought. Like, just because, like, I had to learn that, like, neglect is abuse. Like, if you're a child and you're being neglected and you're not being fed and you're, like, you know, like, not being taken care of, like, that's still abuse. Like, I didn't know that. And I just feel like it's like, I feel like we're purposefully ill-informed as a society so that it's like we don't, and we're not able to heal ourselves. And so also breaking down to the idea that it's like someone can be nice to you sometimes and still be a narcissist. Someone can be nice to you sometimes and still be an abuser other times. And it's like our brain just gets so confused with that because our brain wants to categorize people because that's just naturally what the human brain does. And so it's about, like I said, breaking down the subconscious to see the truth of people. And if you have someone in your life that you're like suspicious that, you know, they don't actually wish you well, or that they're doing these like covertly narcissistic things to you, like I was speaking on, like, and those are just a few examples. Like, there's so many ways that people can be outwardly or covertly narcissistic, and it's really annoying because it's such a buzzword now. Like, everybody wants to use the words gaslighting and narcissist and this and that, but like, take it from a girl who's been in therapy for more than half of her life, who's dealt with real narcissists, who I was very codependent. Like, that's an addiction too. Like, I'll always tell people I've always been really good at not getting addicted to substances, but I get addicted to people. I get addicted to people, and I think about, oh, like the potential, or like, oh, like they were so nice to me before, why are they being mean to me now? What do I need to do differently? And it's like, that's an addiction too, is like seeing the potential in people and letting them walk all over you. So it's important that as a society we recognize these traits within ourselves and that we work within ourselves. And like I was saying, choose yourself. And as I said previously as well, like, if you're suspicious about someone in your life and you're thinking like, like, I don't really like the way that they're like weaponizing they're helping me out, or I don't really like the way that they just said something like really underhanded, and I can't prove that it was underhanded because it was passive aggressive, but I feel like it was underhanded, then it's like, ask spirit, say, show me the truth. Like, thanks for the likes. Show me the truth. Is this person my real friend? Does this person really care about me? Should I have this person in my life? And I guarantee, and give a time period. So if you're like, please spirit, give me signs, or God as you perceive God, say, give me signs over the next 3 days. I want to know the truth. And in my experience, when I ask for that, those people usually remove themselves from my life, and then I don't even have to lift a finger. So either they do something so terrible that I'm like, oh yeah, screw you, like, you're blocked, you're done, I don't want anything to do with you, or they remove themselves from their life because they're not able to push my boundaries anymore, and they don't like me anymore because they can't take advantage of me or use me anymore. So then they just leave because they've used me up for everything that they can use me for, and now they're on their way because, you know, they got everything they wanted from me. And then it's like, well, that saves you having to remove them from your life. Thank you, spirit. Thanks for not only showing me who they really are and their true intentions, but thanks for showing them the door and letting them out, you know? So all that to say, it's time for us to choose ourselves, and not in a selfish way, in a way that's actually extremely selfless, because as I was saying, with like the man in the mirror, the song by Michael Jackson, I'm working on the man in the mirror. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Like, there's so much that's out of our control that's going on in society right now that needs to be changed, that is not good, that we can all objectively agree is like not how we want society to be, but we don't have control over that. So take control over what you can, which is you, and choose you. Like, stop choosing these narcissists over you. Stop choosing, you know, your terrible dead-end job that works you to the bone over yourself. Like, stop, and it's like you've gotten other job offers, but you're afraid to leave because you're loyal. Like, at what point are you being disloyal to yourself by holding your loyalties to people or situations that hurt you? And so that's why I'm saying it is time to make a choice. It's time to choose righteousness and truth, but it's also time to choose yourself and to not, to not continue to try to pour from an empty cup because it gets you nowhere. So with all that being said, let's get into the tarot reading. Thank you for the likes. We're going to use my big deck today because I haven't used it in a while. We got the Ace of Cups already on the bottom. What the hell? That's hilarious. You can't pour from an empty cup. I haven't used this deck in like, I don't know, months, at least months. And then we just have the Ace of Cups at the bottom right when I'm like, you can't pour from an empty cup. Everybody take a drink so you stay hydrated. Okay. Spirit, what messages do you have for us about choosing ourselves? The Death card, because if you don't choose, the universe is going to choose for you, right? And also too, like, I do want to say, I have a family member right now, without saying too much, I have a family member who is old and ran from their problems at a young age. And they ran from those problems for 25 years. And now, at the end of their life, those problems have caught up with them. And those problems are bigger and worse than if they just took care of them 25 years ago. Right? And this person also married a narcissist. And they've become at the end of their rope with dealing with this person's narcissism. So on top of having to deal with their narcissistic partner, they're also having to deal with all the problems that they ran from 25 years ago. And the thing about that is when you don't take care of your problems, not only do they eventually catch up with you in the end, worse and bigger, but those problems affected my family for the 25 years that my family member ran from them. And now they're affecting us even more negatively because they've come to the surface in a way that can't be ignored. So it's like when you're running from your problems and when you're like making excuses for narcissistic behavior, it doesn't just hurt you. Like, it hurts the people who love you, too. Especially if the narcissist that you're making excuses for is an abuser. Because the people who love you have to watch you be abused. And as someone who is a survivor of domestic violence, I'm not judging you for that. I've been through it. I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking as a woman, a battered woman, who was stuck in poverty. I'm speaking on the other side of that and saying that the only way I have what I have in my life today is from blood, sweat, tears, hard work, and radical responsibility. And I stopped being selfish because people might not like this, but, unaliving yourself, I've been there too. I've talked about this plenty of times that I had a lot of ideation around unaliving myself for most of my life. For like 30 years of my 32 years, I have, like, since I can remember, I've always felt like, well, maybe it would be better if I wasn't here, And so I think a lot of times, and the thing to remember as well is like when you're having those thoughts or when you're in this abusive relationship, like your brain isn't healthy because your brain isn't getting the space it needs to be healthy because you're experiencing mental illness or you're experiencing abuse, which is making your brain sick. And so a healthy brain is going to make better choices. And so it's like finding that space of like being able to connect back to the truth, because when you're feeling like, oh, I just want to unalive myself because it'll be better for everyone else, that's not the truth. That's the sickness in your brain that's talking to you. And knowing when to use the systems, like, okay, I'm really in a dark place, maybe I should check myself in, or maybe I should go to group therapy, or maybe I should ask a friend for help, or maybe I should call like the hotline that like 211. That's what it is where I am in America. But anyway, it's like realizing that like that's actually so selfish, and that like being in an abusive relationship is actually so selfish, because yeah, you're saving your abuser's feelings, but everyone else is getting hurt in the process watching you get hurt, including you. Like, you're getting hurt, your loved ones are getting hurt. The only person whose like feelings are being saved are the abuser, and their feelings are not valid anyway, because usually they're weaponizing your feelings against you, right? Or using like my abusive ex, something he would do is he'd fake cry a lot. So like when he wasn't getting his way, he'd fake cry on me, and then when I wasn't like taking the bait, then he'd start screaming and throwing things and like instantly turn the tears off. So it's like, yeah, you're saving these person's feelings, but 9 times out of 10, that person's feelings aren't real. The only feeling they have is wanting to possess and control you. And so it's the same thing with like unaliving yourself. Like, it feels like you're doing a selfless thing, and it feels like, oh, the world's better without me, but that's just not true. That's the sickness in your brain talking to you and telling you a lie, and that it's actually, and I used to get really triggered and really angry when people would say, that's so selfish, you feel that way, because I'd be like, isn't it selfish for you to want me to live like this? But in reality, it's like, I realized for me personally that it's like, I didn't want to not be here. I just didn't want to live the way that I had been living in all of the like PTSD and struggle, and society's screwed up, and I just felt like I don't freaking fit in here. And so I realized like, and there's like crazy statistic, it's like, I think it like goes up 80%, like if you unalive yourself, it's like your family members have like an 80% higher chance of like following in your footsteps. So it's just like I was saying, sometimes when we think we're being selfless or we think we're being kind, we're actually being super selfish, because our brain is sick and we're not having the space for our brain to heal. And that's why I was saying like to choose a side and to choose yourself. So choosing yourself is actually extremely selfless, because when we're taken care of and when we're healthy, then we can show up and be a light in the world, instead of, getting dragged down into the evil. Like, there's plenty of evil in the world. Evil is a dime a dozen in this world. It's just better to try and be a light, right? So then we've got, we've got the Death card and Judgment at the bottom. Okay, so I feel like what I was saying, remember, before I got on that rant about like my family member whose problems caught up with them 25 years later. You fix it now, or the universe is going to force you to face it at some point. So like I was saying about my family member, they ran from their problems for 25 years. Well, guess what? Those problems finally caught up for them. It took a long time for them to catch up, but they did. They did. And so you either fix it now, or the universe is going to freaking fix it for you, or force you. Force that person out of your life. Force you. Like, don't wait and get upheaval. Like, they're showing me like when I was in my abusive relationship, I ended up getting evicted from my apartment because I was paying for everything, and my ex was just a leech that was like leeching off of me. And then I got in that really bad car accident, and then I got beat up by one of the girls at like group therapy. So then I got like a double concussion and like very like sick, and I couldn't work. And so then, because I did not have a healthy partner and we weren't like, it wasn't equal give and take, he didn't start working. And so then, because I couldn't work because I was literally sick in bed for a couple months, I wasn't working. So then we end up getting evicted, because I should have gotten a restraining order a long time before that. I should have done a lot of things differently, but I didn't. So then Spirit shoved me out of there. And that's when I started working with Yemaya, which her feast day is tomorrow. I'm going to be doing like all this spell work for her, because Yemaya saves women from domestic abuse. So I asked for help and I got it, and it felt very uncomfortable the way it happened, because instead of like making different choices, I was making the same choices. So the universe kicked me in the ass and forced me to make a different choice. And that's why I'm saying, like, choose before you're getting kicked in the ass and forced to make a different choice, right? And then that also goes back to what I was saying in the beginning about how sometimes it feels like, oh, like, why is God punishing me? God's not punishing you. God's giving you exactly what you asked for. It's just uncomfortable because you've dug yourself in this hole. And I gave my friend that was telling me that about like like what she's going through, I gave her the analogy that it's like when you keep repeating a cycle, it's as if you're in like a really deep hole that's like a dirt hole, right? And so you're trying to climb out of this hole, but every time you try to get a grip, like the dirt is just falling through your fingers and you can't, thank you for the likes. The dirt is just falling through your fingers and you can't get a grip. So you finally claw, and then sometimes too, like you're in this deep hole and then it feels like people are trying to bury you alive or like throwing garbage on you, and so it's making your climb even harder. So like let's say like you not only are you trying to leave this abusive relationship, but you're also living in poverty and you have mental illness and like my situation. So it's like there's all this stuff being dumped on you while you're trying to make a different choice. And so it feels like you're being punished when in reality it's just a really difficult like jump out of that, like climb out of that hole. And then God, spirit, the universe as you perceive it will give you a choice. Like once you actually get out of the hole, you're going to have a choice. Are you going to hop back in the hole and start the cycle over? So I'll give you an example from my life. Like when I finally left my abusive ex and it was like this big thing, I was like homeless. I ended up back in the psych ward. My parents did not want to let me back in their house because, you know, they just didn't trust me because I had just kept going back to the abusive ex, which if you've ever been in an abusive relationship, you understand that it's not like leaving is not linear and that there's just like a lot of levels to it that make it difficult to leave, especially if you're being like physically abused because you're like literally afraid for your life. So it's delicate, right? It's a delicate situation a lot of the times with a lot of battered women. And so it was like my family had finally just given me a second chance and they were like letting me get back on my feet for a short period of time with them in like my parents' home, and I had just finished my therapy and I'm like starting a new job, and you know, I was literally Ubering to work because I didn't have a car. So it was like I'd Uber to work, I'd make my money, I'd give my parents all my extra money, I'd pay for the Uber, give my parents all the money I had to like put aside for like, you know, expenses for the house, and then put whatever, you know, like for whatever. And then, and like also they were helping me pay off a car, like, cause they had gotten me a car, but they were like, you can't have this car until you pay for it yourself. So it was like, I was Ubering to work and I was take all my money and I would pay like them a certain amount for the car, pay whatever they wanted for me to stay there, and then they'd put the rest aside like in savings for me. And so it was like I was really in a place where I was starting to climb my way out of that hole, right? And then I get a call from my abusive ex and he's like, I'm in the hospital, I'm having heart problems. But mind you, this guy was a heroin addict and an alcoholic that died multiple times and had to be brought back to life with Narcan. And so it's like medical issues aren't something you ever cared about in the past when you were feeding your addiction. And by the way, like he would overdose and then he'd lie and say that he drank bleach because I'm a bad girlfriend and I made him want to like DIE. So it's like not only was he doing this to himself, and the classic one was we'd get in a fight because I'd call him out on bad behavior and he'd be like, well, I'm just gonna go use heroin now and it's your fault. And it's like, dude, no, that you're making a choice, right? Everything we've been talking about in this live, you're making a choice. The choice you're making has nothing to do with me. You're using me as an excuse for your bad behavior. So like I said, I'm getting on my feet, everything's going well, and then I get a call that's like, my heart, I'm having heart problems. And I was like, and how is that like my problem? That's not like, I don't know what you want. And he's calling me from numbers I don't recognize, right? Because his number is blocked. And so then his mom gets on the phone and his mom is like, I'm really surprised at you. He really needs your support right now. Okay, well, I could have used people's support when your son was choking me out and beating the shit out of me. Like, I really could have used some support and some medical help then, but where were you? Like, we can both play that blame game. And then my parents came in the room while I'm having this conversation and they start yelling at me and they're like, we're going to kick you out again. Like, you need to hang up the phone. Like, we're going to kick you out. Get off the phone. So I hang up. I block all the random numbers that he's been calling me from, and I made a different choice. Did you just see that? Did you see that orb fly by? thanks for the likes, guys. I made a different choice. And I said, fuck you. You're not going to guilt me into anything. And then a year after, once I had my independence, I got this apartment. I have my car. I started Dutchess Divinity. I got my business going. Things are going great. I get a call from him and he leaves me a nasty voicemail on my birthday being like, there's some things we need to talk about. You've made some really bad choices, like yelling at me, blaming me again. And so you know what I did? I promptly changed my number. I made a different fucking choice. I said, I don't want this guy having any fucking access to me ever, at all, ever again. So instead of him being able to call me from all these random numbers, I made a different fucking choice. And sometimes, like I said, that choice might have to be extreme, but I did it before the universe kicked me in the ass and made me do it, which is what I was getting at with this card. Do it before the universe forces you to do it, and just make a different choice. You will thank yourself for it. Think ahead and make a different choice. And honestly, that's why I get kind of like, thank you. Lots of likes coming in. Thank you. That's why I get kind of annoyed when people are trying to tell me who I am, or like what I need to believe, or what I need to say or not say, or who I need to support or not support. And, oh, you're just young. You don't fully understand. Excuse me. You have no idea what I've been through. I've lived 100 lives in this life. I might be 32. And I look younger than I am. I'm not saying that to sound braggy, that my entire life, I'd be like 21 getting carded for a rated R movie. Like, that's just the way it's been my whole life. People just, and I think too, I have a youthful, fun spirit. So people think they can tell me what to do, or like assume that I don't know what I'm talking about. And I hate when people tell me, educate yourself. I'm a very educated person, right? I'm one class away from my bachelor's degree. I just never followed through with it because everything locked down. I was supposed to go finish my last class and then everything locked down, and I was like, oh wait, so none of the rules actually matter? So this bachelor degree doesn't actually mean anything? Okay, bet. I'm not spending like thousands of dollars just to like fucking finish this. And yeah, it would have been nice to finish what I started, but at the same time, that shit doesn't really mean anything to me anymore. It doesn't mean what it meant when I first started. And that's just me. It's just my opinion. You can disagree with me. But that's why it's like really annoying for me when people try to tell me who I am, or who I'm supposed to support, or what I need to say, or what I need to do, or like, you're just young, you don't understand. Like, no, I'm sorry, you actually don't understand. You don't understand what I've been through. You don't understand the experiences that I've had. You don't understand that, like, yeah, I'm 32, but I've lived the life of like a fucking 100-year-old person is how I feel about it. Not to mention, if you're spiritual and you believe in past lives and all the like past life experiences and knowledge and just wisdom that you can have and acquire from like hardships in life. Like, I don't know. Now I'm just ranting. But anyway, we got Judgment on the bottom of the deck, and I feel like this is going back to like what I was saying in the beginning about how like it's like God isn't punishing you. God is presenting you with choices. And then this reminds me of the idea that free will is not actually real. So like, yes, we have free will spiritually and energetically speaking, but in a lot of ways, like the government or our world leaders or the systems, they don't give us a choice. So like when we think about the V's and how they were like saying like, yeah, you cannot get the V or you can get fired and lose your livelihood. Like that wasn't a choice. That was blackmail, right? And then as well, like, there's free will, but at the same time, if your subconscious is programmed in a certain way, then you're just acting like a robot, like I said, making the same decision and the same mistakes and repeating the same cycles over and over again because your brain is stuck on autopilot, and, you know, your free will is skewed because you've been this way for your entire life and you've never made a different choice, so you just keep making the same one, and you're not making the same choice because, you know, you want to suffer or because you want to repeat the cycle. It's because your free will has been disturbed through predictive programming or brainwashing or abuse or, you know, family, like the way you were raised. Like, there's a lot of reasons why free will gets destroyed in the society and in the universe, like in the realm, in the three-dimensional realm that we're living in. And I feel like Spirit is saying, though, that you really do always have a choice. And even though it's hard sometimes to make a different choice, or everything in you is telling you do the same thing over again, or, you know, making all these excuses for why you shouldn't choose yourself or why you shouldn't, you know, level up and be the highest version of yourself, there is still free will. And where there's a will, there's a way. And they're reminding me very strongly of, like, consent. So, like, last year, I just kept saying, like, I do not consent to my taxes going to war. I do not consent to, like, my hard-earned money going to, like, there's a lot of things that they do with our taxes that I just don't consent to and that I don't support. I just got chills. And so I just kept saying, like, I don't consent, I don't consent, I don't consent. And then it was like, I ended up, you know, not owing anything, which was a miracle, but it was the miracle of saying I don't consent, right? So it's like, there's a lot of power in that, but we live in such, like, an RAPE culture that, where it's like, you know, the big corporations are siphoning our energy without our permission. The entertainment system, the entertainment whatever is, like, siphoning our energy without our permission. Like, there's so much that's just, like, siphoning our energy without permission. And then even my friend today was talking to me, and she was like, dude, like, someone was talking about how everything's a payment plan now. Like, you can literally buy a car and not have certain access to features on that car unless you're paying a payment plan monthly. And that goes back to the you'll own nothing and be happy. And so it's like, the world we live in feeds off of false consent or non-consent. And so it's really important to set boundaries around what you consent to and what you don't. And that's where making a different choice comes in, because, like, when you do make that different choice, you're physically saying, like, I don't consent to this. So let's say, like, in going back at the example of me leaving my abusive ex, it got to a point where I said, where, you know, my parents were like, we're going to kick you out if you don't get off the phone with him right now. Click. Hang up immediately, made a different choice, didn't sit there arguing with him, click, hang up, I made a different choice, I do not consent to this conversation, blocks the numbers, still finds his way to worm his way in, leaves me a nasty voicemail on my birthday. Oh, nope, I don't consent to this, I'm making a different choice, I'm changing my number, you know? So, yeah, you always have a choice, you always have options. Here with the Seven of Cups. You have many choices and many options, and we talked about this in a, oh, thank you for the super, like, thank you for the chat, the money. Sorry, I don't know the word. I have the chat off, but I just saw the money go up, so thank you so much. I'll look at the chat after because I don't want to get too distracted because ADD, but anyway, as we talked about on other videos, it's like there are many timelines that get you to the same success that you're looking for. You always have a choice, right? And it might be, like, harder, like some of it might be harder to achieve, or the choices might be harder to make, or it might be a more difficult timeline, like, to hop down, but at the same time, do it before the universe chooses for you. And then I'm hearing that song by, I forget who, it's the people who sing, like, the something Tom Sawyer, but it's that song that's like, if you don't choose, you're still making a choice. Is it Boston? Is it Boston who sings that? But I could be wrong, sorry. But either way, the song says, if you do not choose, you're still making a choice. Because in your non-choosing, the universe is going to say, okay, and then kick you in the dick and say, well, we're going to put you down the really hard timeline, thanks. You didn't fucking choose the easier one. So you always have a choice. And then here with the Magician, I just heard as within, as without, all is mental, the emerald tablets of Thoth. Those keep coming up so much recently because they are the rules that govern this universe. So it's like you can always, like, and we've talked about this recently too, how it's like the subconscious creates self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you can really rewire your subconscious to believe that everything's going to be okay and that everything is working out in your behavior, if everything is working out in your favor, then you will start to behave in ways that make that true because the subconscious wants to prove it to be true. And essentially that's what manifestation is. Like, take out all the woo-woo shit, take out all the spiritual stuff. Let's just talk about science. Let's just talk about the brain. Like, your subconscious is going to beg, borrow, and steal, fight tooth and nail to make itself right. So if you can reprogram that to say, hey, everything's working out in my favor, everything's going to be okay, then yeah, you can get to the other side and you can start to manifest and see positive manifestation in your life. And don't underestimate your power, right? Because like I was saying, the power of non-consent, of just saying like, I don't consent to this. I don't, you know? And the power of saying, of the power of making a different choice, right? The power of, you know, choosing yourself. That's what a master manifestor does. A master manifestor reprograms their subconscious. A master manifestor chooses to make a choice that gets them out of the negative repeating cycle that they're in. A master manifestor believes anything is possible. So, yeah, that's all. Like I said, if you take out all the layers of spirituality, I like the woo-woo shit. I do. I'm into it. I like the spirituality. I like the woo-woo stuff. Some people don't. And if you just take all those layers off, it's very simple and it's scientifically proven. But at the end of the day, Spirit's reminding me that you're the one who has to do it, right? You have to reprogram the subconscious. You have to make a different choice. You need to be an active member in your own life. You can't just sit on your couch and like hope that everything gets better, because it won't. Part of making different choices is also taking productive action, is what Spirit just said. King of Wands. Okay, so for some of you, this is a side note that if there is someone in your life who you've been like questioning, like, is this person good for me? And how I was saying to like ask the universe, say like, hey, like, I want to know, are these person's intentions good? Like, in the next 3 days, give me signs or show me their behavior that tells me whether or not they're good for me. There's someone in your life that you're wondering about. There is going to be a conversation coming in, and the conversation will bring justice. So whether the justice is teaching you like, oh yeah, like I definitely don't want this person in my life anymore, like they don't care about my feelings, or the justice is like, hey, like, I'm sorry, I understand where your boundaries are coming from. I actually like am very sorry for the way I've treated you, and this person is actually changing their behavior. For some of you, you're going to have that experience where it's like you're actually going to see a change in the behavior. You're going to get justice and communication. For others of you, you're going to see exactly who they are. They're going to show you who they are, and who they are is someone that shouldn't be in your life. So that's just a side note for people who are questioning. And it doesn't have to be a person. It can be work. It can be like maybe you're trying to pick a major, and it's like if you're in school and you're like, well, I don't know what major I should choose. And it's like Spirit's going to show you what's right for you. And so what Spirit's saying as well with this about choosing yourself is don't be afraid to like say what you need to say, get the justice that you need, and then like don't feel guilty about it. Because like the King of Wands, he's fun, he's passionate, but he also knows his worth, and he's grounded, and he has a lot to show for himself in his life. And so it's like part of standing in your power and choosing yourself is communicating your needs, and like I said, not taking on the other people's reactions, or like the example I gave of like me and my ex getting in a fight and him being like, congratulations, I'm doing heroin now because of you. Like, no, me calling out your bad behavior it is not my fault that you're making a bad choice, basically. And then you can't feel guilty if people make bad choices by showing you who they are, and that they don't want to change, and that they want to keep going in the same cycle. Like, just let it go. Spirit's saying like stand firm, and also more fun. Like, we have all just been like having a hard 4 years, and it's like all of us just need more relaxation, more fun, more passion, more inspiration around things that we actually enjoy, because I just feel over the last 4 years there's been so much hard things that we all have had to deal with, and not to mention it, the internet has shifted in a way that the algorithm just wants to feed you things that upset you and make you angry and like rage bait you, rather than feeding you things that make you feel inspired or feeling good. So maybe the advice here too is like, clean up your subscriptions. Like, who are you subscribed? I did want to say this too, like, as someone, like, my brand is myself. My brand is me. Like, and I only endorse people or like tarot channel, like how I like am happy to, you know, say that I support Shireen, Arabian Conjure, because she's my friend. I'm happy to say I support Lizzie and her channel, and Teresa and her channel, and Maria and her astrology skills, who gave me an incredible fucking astrology reading, and it's already coming true. But it's like, I'm only endorsing people that I truly see the value and that I'm in alignment with. It's important to think about, like, who are you aligning yourself with? And for one, you don't have to pick sides, like how I was saying in the beginning. Like, really, it's just about picking the side of what's morally correct. But like, you don't have to choose red or blue. Like, you don't have to choose Democrat or Republican. You don't have to choose like different, you know, sides of really polarized situations. No, you don't have to do that. You choose yourself, right? And so, as I was saying too, it's like really thinking about who you're aligning yourself with. That's why I said a million times, like, I am not, like, why I didn't vote. I did not, and that will piss people off, which is fine. You're allowed, but you can't be disrespectful. You're allowed to be mad at me for it, but you ain't allowed to be disrespectful. I didn't vote because I didn't want to choose a side. I was like, I don't consent to any of this. So I just didn't vote. And so it's like, really think about who you're aligning yourself with, and think about who's forcing themselves in your frequency. Like, if someone's trying to force themselves on you, or force their beliefs on you, or force their like collaborations on you, and you don't want to collaborate with them, or you don't want to hang out with them, or whatever it is, really think about that, and like maybe go through your follower, like who you're following and who follows you on your social media sites. What are you subscribing to? Who are you subscribing to? Who are you aligning yourself with? And really decide if that's in your highest good, and if that's the kind of thing you want to be manifesting into your reality. Because how people say, like, you know, look at your friends and you'll see yourself, and if you don't like what you're seeing, then like maybe there's some work you need to do, or some people you need to like remove from your life. And then also too, like how they say, like, you're not supposed to be the smartest person in the room. Like, if you're the smartest person in the room, leave that room. Unless it's like your event or whatever, and you're like speaking at the event, and these people have come to support you, and like there's been an you know, a monetary exchange or something like that, then that's different. But like, you never want to be the kindest person in a room. You never want to be the, you know, healthiest person in a room. You never want to be the smartest person in a room, because those people are feeding off your energy and riding your coattails on where you want to go. You want to be looking ahead and looking forward and building yourself up, right? While also building others up in an equal give and take, not in a vampire, like energy vampire kind of give and take. I almost just said, sexual vampire. So for some of you, you could be sleeping with someone that's literally siphoning your life force through the sacred energy exchange that is sex. So tell me, you need to think about that. Everybody take a drink. Thanks for the likes, guys. But anyway, Spirit's saying there's no shame in speaking your truth. There's no shame in standing your ground. There's no shame in standing up for what's right. And that there needs to be more like inspiration, fun, passion. And if that means that you need a break from like too many people siphoning off your energy, or you need like a social media break, then take it. Like, you'll notice sometimes I just don't post for like a long period of time, and that's because I need to individuate. With the work that I do, I'm on the Patreon and like those people's energies are meshing with mine. And then, you know, I've got my clients and we're doing very intimate stuff here. We're doing healing and I'm doing relationship readings or whatever. Is intimate and it can get very enmeshed. And sometimes you just need to clear the energy and figure out where you begin and other people end. And that's okay. It's okay to take a social media break. It's okay to take a break from your friend group. If it doesn't mean you hate them and you're never going to hang out with them again, it just means you need a break, right? It's okay, like I was saying, for me to take a break from posting on here because I just need to individuate sometimes. So yeah, Spirit's just acknowledging that it's about you. You're the main character of your life. And also, too, it's like I used to be someone who used to get, like, really hung up on my twin and, like, use my twin as a crutch to, like, give me motivation for life and treat him like he was the main character of my life or, like, the main goal of my life. And that just is not true. Like, you're the main character. You're the only person living your life is you. Or even, I'll give this example. I didn't want to go to college. My parents were like, you're going to college, you have no choice. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to college. And then I made the best of it, and I'm glad I went to college because I made some really great friends and stuff, and I had some good experiences, and I gained a lot of knowledge and experience. Like, everything happens for a reason, right? But it wasn't like, at the end of the day, like, the only person living my life is me. Like, my parents aren't going in and taking the tests. My parents aren't studying. My parents aren't, you know what I mean? And so it's like you're going to only succeed when you're following your heart. And this is why people have midlife crisis. Like, when I was in group therapy, I would talk about how we were all having quarter of a life crisis because we were like young people. It was a young adult group, so it was 18 to 25. And I'd be like, oh, we're all just having a quarter of our life crisis because we don't like the way our life is going, or we're living a life that's not for ourselves. So it's like, do this before you're 50 and you are having a midlife crisis and wondering where your life went because you not only ran from your problems, but you lived for everybody but yourself. It's just better to do it now, you know? Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the super chat. I don't have the chat on, but thank you guys. All right, let's see. Yeah, and then with the Eight of Cups, don't be afraid to walk away, because a lot of times the stuff that we're holding on to is exactly what's holding us back, right? Attachment is usually what holds us back in life. It's time to have the strength to see these situations for what they truly are, these situations or these people for what they truly are, to stop having the blinders on. And even if it feels scary to start new, we all have to start from somewhere, right? Like, you're not born a professional. You have to work your way up to that professionality in whatever it is that you're doing. So not being afraid to take off the blinders, see things for what they are, find the strength to move on, even if it means starting new and like you feel like you don't know what you're doing. Don't be afraid to walk away, because walking away from what you're holding on to. I just heard that song by 38 Special, hold on loosely, but don't let go. Like, don't let go of your needs and only hold on to the things that are in alignment with you, but hold on to them loosely. Don't have extreme attachment to them, because that's what causes these problems and this suffering. Because walking away from what it is that's either holding you back or that you're holding too tightly is what leads you to your peace. It leads you to your temperance. It leads you to what it is that you've been trying to create. Thank you for the likes. Now we're going to get some Titans. This is the Gods and Titans deck. From our sexy masculine. Remember we talked about Brooke from Arcanum LA and how she talked about the sexy masculine frequency within ourselves. Let's get a message from our sexy masculine. So we have Odin, guidance. So if you need help, ask for it. Like, ask for it from spirit. If you need help from your family or your friends, ask for it, right? And just know that, like I was saying, it's like we always have a choice, and there are many timelines that take us to what it is that we're trying to achieve. So just trust the guidance, trust where you're being guided, and to shift these things before the universe forces them to be shifted without your consent. Also, too, like, knowing the difference between, like, fate and, like, giving up, right? Because it's like part of Odin's lesson was realizing that like in the way that he tried to fight his fate, he actually made that fate come to action. So it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? So it's like, don't crutch on like, well, I'm just destined to always be miserable, because yeah, then self-fulfilling prophecy, you'll never change and you'll always be miserable. But also don't go so far to the other end where you're trying to prevent something from happening, so then you literally make that thing happen that you didn't want to happen. And just knowing, like how I was talking about, like regaining your free will and understanding that like no matter what you feel your fate is not to suffer. Your fate is to thrive and to learn and to heal and to grow and to truly know that and to believe that. Then we have Vulcan, inventiveness. So, right, so getting the guidance where you need it, but also having to be creative along the way. Like, how can you be creative in breaking these cycles before the universe forces you to break them? Ra, power, there he is, Father Ra. And I was thinking too, I'm pretty sure Odin, it's his right eye that he plucked out, and the right eye is the eye of Ra. And so this is the father frequency. So maybe it's like if maybe you're healing a relationship with your father, or if your father's someone you'll never have a relationship with, it's like healing that frequency within yourself. And maybe like if you have a partner and you have children together, like finding that healthy father frequency with your partner that maybe you never had, but being able to provide that for your kids because you're making a different choice and you're ending the cycle. Something that some of you could be going through is like, maybe if you did have a bad relationship with your father, maybe you keep choosing men that remind you of your father, and it's like time to break that cycle so that you don't bring it into the next generation. And for others of you, if you do have a good relationship with your father, there might be some wisdom that your dad can share with you. And then we have Achilles, knowing what your Achilles heel is, right? Like how I was saying, how I realized, like, no, I don't have a problem with substances. I've never really had an issue where I couldn't pull myself out of, like, when I was overindulging in, like, alcohol or weed or whatever. And I've never had a hard drug issue. I have definitely been on the brink of, like teetering, like, oh, that doesn't seem, that's not healthy. Like, that's not right. But I was lucky. I had good friends who pulled me out of it. Like, Doobie, when I was in college, I got really depressed and I was drinking like a Four Loko every day, and it was back before those, it was like the illegal kind, like the kind with like caffeine and sugar and like the alcohol. So it was like an up or a downer full of sugar, and it was like killing people. And I was like literally, then it eventually became illegal and they reworked the Four Lokos. But him and my other friends sat me down and were like, you're not fun anymore, Dutchess. Like, you're kind of just becoming an alcoholic. And I was drinking so much because the guy I was dating cheated on me with one of my best friends. So, like, that sucked. But at the end of the day, like, did I ask for that? No. But at the end of the day, I had to make a different choice. Am I going to become an alcoholic and everybody hates me because I'm wallowing in my misery? Or am I going to make a different choice and get my shit together and listen to my friends who care about me telling me the hard truth, even though it was an uncomfortable truth? It was a hard truth and I needed to hear it. And then I fucking got my shit together. So knowing where your Achilles heel is. Like, how I said, now I know mine is codependency. And that doesn't just have to be in a romantic relationship. That can be with friends or family. Like, you can be codependent on anything and anyone. So knowing where your weakness lies, and your weakness isn't going to be the same as mine or as your sister's or as your fucking neighbor down the street. Like, everybody's gonna have their own Achilles heel, but finding it so that you can have confidence to overcome what it is that is like these weak points in your personality that are dragging you down. Then we have Zeus, leadership, right? Overcoming the Achilles heel so that you can lead yourself to victory, right? And there's that father energy again, that father frequency. Okay, let's get some of the Audacious Angels deck. I just got a new tarot deck. Shout out to Lizzie, because she put me onto it. It's the Housewives Tarot, and I'm like really excited for that. It's really cute. I really, really like it. So that's coming in the mail. So you already know I'm going to be doing a reading with that. Also, set your notifications, guys. My pick a card is actually going up for real life today. Okay? So Just know that for real. House of Mirrors, right? So this is about not seeing things clearly. So when we are in these cycles, and how I was saying, like, when you are struggling with mental illness, or you are in this like abusive cycle with someone or like a situation, your brain isn't healthy and you're not seeing things clearly. So Spirit's saying, like, get clear, and once you get clear, it's like easier to make decisions. So like, even like how I was talking about, my friend was like making this different choice in her life. She was like, you know, I stopped smoking weed for a little while so that I could actually get clear and like feel what I'm feeling and know what I want to do moving forward. Am I saying weed is bad? No, but like, it's about knowing what works for you, what doesn't, and how, like, just making different choices, like I said. So like, if weed makes you fucking, that you can't think straight and that you keep accepting bad behavior from people because that's just like how it's making you feel at the time, then yeah, take a little break, get clear, and see where things go from there. So how can you get clear? The advice is, how can you get clear? Like, what can you, maybe it's taking a break from social media, like I said. Maybe you keep comparing yourself, or you keep getting lost in the angry comment section. Or if you're not going to take a break, what are you consuming? Like I said, who are you aligning yourself with? How can you clear the frequency? How can you individuate and figure out where you begin and others end? What do you actually want? What? Wombful. See, too many people. Too many people. When there's too many people in our frequency or trying to tell us what to do or how to live or whatever, or control us, we can't freaking think straight. Damn, Spirit, you're really showing out. Size times 3. This is when you're about to have a level up. And as I was saying, quantum leaps are not always comfortable. Which brings us to these other 2 cards that fell out. We have Killer Instinct, the Yes Cake, and Size times 3. If you want to grow, if you want to change your life for the better, if you want things to shift within you and around you, you're going to have to say yes to yourself with the Yes Cake, making better choices for yourself, and cutting out what's holding you back. And not, like, the biggest lesson that I've been having in my life this last month is not making special treatment for people, whether that's clients or people in my life. Like, if there's a guy that you're talking to and you're giving him girlfriend behavior from you for situationship behavior from him, why are you giving him special treatment? Why doesn't he have to show up as a healthy partner? Why do you only have to show up as a healthy partner? Why is he getting special treatment, right? Or if you're like me and you have clients, and it's like, you cannot be giving special treatment to one client. Like, let's say a client is like very rude to me, or just says or does something that's like, well, that was really disrespectful and inappropriate. I can't keep making fucking excuses and special treatment for people, because I don't have to put up with that, right? Like, I will always choose my peace and my well-being over money. That's just who I am. I'm always going to choose my peace and my well-being over money. And something that I learned working in a small business on a farm, I started working at age 12 for my dad in my dad's garden center, and then I started working on a farm at age 14, because the work rights, are like, the ages were different. They're different for like farms, garden centers, that kind of thing. Plus my dad owned the business. That adds a different layer to it all. But anyway, and I did it by choice. Like, I wasn't forced to. I wanted to learn how to work. I've always had a strong work ethic. Like, I wasn't, before anybody's like, child labor. Like, no, I chose to do that. But one thing that I learned from working at the farm is my boss didn't put up with shit. And the customer is not always right. Okay? I'm going to tell you that, because sometimes the customer ain't always right. Sometimes the customer is taking advantage of you. Sometimes the customer is being abusive to your salespeople, or like taking advantage of your kindness, or taking advantage of your services. The customer ain't always right. So if you want to grow, if you want to achieve these things, if you got big dreams and you want things to go in a different direction in your life, you have to say yes to yourself, and you have to cut people out of your life. And as I was saying, the big lesson is no more special treatment for people. Because if some, let's say, like I was saying, you're just like taking all this shit from your partner and they're not being a good partner. If they weren't them, would you be allowing other people to treat you that way? Probably not, but you have a soft spot for them, or you've made excuses for them, so you're giving them special treatment. And then also the other big lesson has been, your feelings are not more important than my needs for my well-being. So like, I might hurt your feelings by calling out the behavior that is not acceptable in my life in the bad way that you're treating me. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm the main character of my life. I'm the only one who can live my life and fulfill my destiny and make my dreams come true. And my needs and my well-being are not overshadowed around your fragile ego and your feelings when I call out behavior that's just objectively not acceptable. And a lot of us who are empathetic, we want to save everybody else's feelings but our own. What about you? When are you going to stand up for yourself? You know, it's crazy too, because it's like people like us, like who are empathetic and who are always worried about people's feelings, it's like we often end up alone with nobody supporting our feelings. And so it's like, if nobody's going to support our feelings, it has to get to a point where it's like you're showing up for yourself. And then when you're showing up for yourself, that's when the real friends come in that show up for you. That's when the real partner comes in and can match your frequency, because the people that have been taking from you, siphoning off your energy and, you know, abusing you or doing whatever, like, they're not even going to be able to match your energy and your frequency, because you're just you're above that now. And I hate too in the spiritual community when people are like, nobody's better than anybody else. Yeah, though sometimes people are. Like, if you're a man hitting a woman, yeah, I think I'm better than you. And I think the guy who's protecting the woman is better than you. Like, I don't like that. There's a lot of like weird rhetoric in the spiritual community that just feels like off, right? It feels like spiritual bypassing. Or like, I do think I'm better than a PEDO. I do think I'm better than the government officials that are human trafficking people. Yes, I do think I'm better than you. And that shouldn't be controversial to say, right? So, yeah. Yeah. And then we got Kick It Up, which is about having fun, right? Okay, which we said earlier. All right, that will conclude our tarot. I'm going to clean up the cards and get the singing bowls out. You guys just get comfortable. If you want to lay down and close, if you feel comfortable laying down and closing your eyes, you can do that. But either way, you need to accept the healing. So thank you for the likes. If you accept the healing, you can say it in your head, like, I accept this healing, I consent, right? Because I was talking about like how society today really undersells the power of consent. So you either need to, and a lot of throat chakra opening I'm feeling right now, but either you need to say, I consent. You can say it in your head, you can say it out loud, you can type it in the comments. It does help me out if you type it in the chat, because then it just like alerts the algorithm. But yeah, so you go ahead, get comfortable. If you want to lay down, that's fine. If you want to keep your eyes open and sit up, that's fine too. Some people get very tired from the Reiki, which is normal. It's just because we're doing the work on your auric field, and so sometimes it's just when we're doing a lot of work spiritually, it can take a lot out of you, and it's just you fall asleep. So, but all right, I will put it on Sunday while I get the singing bowls. There she is, the little baby. She's in a circle. Aww, she's snuggling. Hi, Sunday. Yeah, do you feel like people are watching you? Because they are. Tell them how you kept me up all night, girl. Tell them how you and your sister were up all night being crazy girls. That's why you're so sleepy now, because you kept mom up all night. I know, it's just because you're a baby. Babies do that, but still, would be nice if tonight you don't do that. I'd appreciate it if you don't do that. All right, everybody take a drink. I'm going to spray some of this in my hair. This is like my favorite thing to spray in my hair nowadays. I don't know why I never sprayed it in my hair before. I used to just spray it on myself, but because it's like body and room spray, like I'd spray it in the room, but now I'm just spraying it in my hair. because it's just really nice in my hair. Instantly, I feel like a heaviness is lifted. That although that was like a lot of really good information, the information is heavy, and like remembering those really dark times in my past. But I share those dark times from my past with you to show you not only am I someone who overcame that, I survived that, and not only did I survive, I'm thriving now. I'm actually living a happy life. But I also share it with you because I just think it's important to talk about these things, because society doesn't fucking talk about this shit, and so many people are experiencing it without any guidance, and that's just not right. Like, this is the kind of shit, like, there's a lot of stuff I learned in therapy that I just feel like they should teach you in school. And then two, it's like, why don't they teach us actual life skills, like how to do your taxes, how to change a tire? And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's the damn truth. I would love to have learned that shit in school instead of learning nautical miles. Are you fucking kidding me? I learned that shit was confusing as hell. I did that in community college. I'm learning about fucking nautical miles. I have never been a math girl. Never in my life have I been a math girl. Yeah, not even in past lives I was bad at math. And I'd be in the freaking math tutoring center, and they're trying to fucking explain it's like this over this over this. And the thing that gets me about math is I always ask the teachers, I say, but why? Why do we do this? Why does X mean this? Why does this? Why that? And they say, oh, we don't know. It's just the rule. I can't learn like that. You gotta tell me why. You can't just say we do it just cause. I'm an indigo child. You think I'm gonna accept that? Hell no. That's why I ain't never been good at math. But anyway, I would have much preferred to learn how to change a fucking tire over learning nautical miles and spending hours in the math tutoring center, because I don't fucking understand nautical miles. And I'll never need them. I'll never use them. I think I can count on one hand how many times I've been on a boat and I was not in charge of that boat. So, yeah. Alright, we're going to spray some of this. I see the likes coming in. I guess there are other non-math girlies in the chat because fuck, or maybe just other people who are like, fuck nautical miles. Alright. Let's do this. I want to use this too. Okay, I want to use this as well. So this is an egg that was gifted to me by Sasha. Thank you, Sasha. So this, I'm not really sure what kind of, I think it's like a marble, like the kind of stone. So we have, for the Reiki, we have this egg because, you know, we're kind of like, what we're talking about here is like planting a new seed, right? And it's like, sometimes life, when you're like still in the cocoon phase, or you're still trying to break through and out of that cycle, it's like your blessings are still dormant. So we've got this egg to support us in that frequency of like coming out of that dormancy and blooming into something, or hatching into what it is that we want. And then I have this glowstone. This glows in the dark, and it's a cube, and the cube represents the physical, like the 3D or the body. Triangle is mind, circle is spirit, cube is physical. And then I also have some selenite, which is self-cleansing, and I got this when I did a healing with a woman in Florida, and she was an alien lady, and I know how crazy it sounds, I don't care. I kept getting abducted that trip. Like, I got abducted multiple times and like woke up covered in this weird crusty stuff that other people say they have on them or on their house when they get abducted. Like, I've heard so many recounts of this where it's this very strange, it's like, it looks like goop, but when you touch it, it like crumbles to dust. It's very strange. But I got abducted and woke up covered in that stuff, and I had no memory of the abduction. That night though, before, there was like saw an alien like flash, like of a hologram of like an alien in my hotel room, and that's a whole story for another day. That's like a long ass story. I might have already told it before, but either way, Yeah, so I got abducted and I woke up with the crusties on me to the point where I was like, was I roofied? Like, what happened last night? And then I had to remember, like, no, Nikki, you weren't roofied. You didn't even leave your room. You went down to the beach and then you stayed home all night. So, but that's, yeah. Anyway, I got abducted and then I went to go get a healing with this lady the day later and she was like, oh my God, like, I'm an alien person too. Like, that kind of stuff happens to me. And then she gave me these, well, I bought them. But she used them on the session where I was like holding them during the session, and then I bought them from her. So that alien session with that woman is what activated me to have light language. Like, it gave me the ability to speak light language after that. So these are very powerful self-cleansing selenite, light language selenite. So Spirit just said for some of you after this, you're also going to be gifted the ability to speak light language. And when you're doing that, just make sure you're always setting your intention for like the highest frequency, because light language can be good or bad. It just depends on the frequency and the intentions you're putting behind it. So everybody take a nice deep breath in. Either put in the comments, say out loud, or say in your mind, I accept this healing, I claim this healing, and we're going to get into it. In, another deep breath in. Hold it, and let it out. star family, higher self, Yeshua, Baal, Ra, Yemaya, Kornika, and God Source for allowing me to be the channel through which these messages flow. We thank you for the truth, advice, and healing. Amarashi Namaste, with the power of three, Smooth be always works, always a blessing. So right at the end there, I saw a major heart chakra opening, and then I saw the like wreath thing that like Caesar wears on his head, and I don't really know much about that. All I really know is Brutus was like pretending to be Caesar's friend, and then he's the one who betrayed him. And that's a lot of what we were talking about in the beginning, that it's like figuring out why people are in your life and if they're in your life for the right reasons, and who's like has good energy and good intentions towards you and who doesn't. And there's a great song by the Buttress. Isn't that funny? It's like Dutchess, but Buttress, like B-U-T-T. And she has a song, Brutus, and it's really good. It's like a really good song. That's the only reason I know the little bit that I do about Caesar and Brutus. So it was like I saw that. So it's like going back to that theme of like who's really your friend and who's not, who's in it for themselves. And then I also saw wind chimes and hummingbirds right there at the end. So that might be a synchronicity for some of you. And then also some of you are going to have a physical alien experience, like because this selenite reminds me of the aliens. And then anything that glows in the dark reminds me of aliens. So some of you, Spirit was saying you're actually going to have like a physical encounter with like a UFO, or like you're going to have a crazy dream, or you're going to remember like an abduction. I just got dizzy when I said that. Like some of you are about to have like a really profound starseed experience. So if you're doing that, everything that I was saying in the beginning about setting your boundaries, saying like I do consent, because a lot of us, okay, this is a story for another day, but basically there are contracts that we sign up for as starseeds to interact with the interdimensionals, and we can trace this back to like the American government and also Hitler literally like signing a lot of their people away to be abducted and stuff. Like if you really go in deep into the research, you can find documents about this. And so and I don't know if it's photoshopped or not, but I've seen pictures of like Hitler with gray aliens and stuff like that, and like that's who's usually doing like the really weird reproductive experiments on humans, because they destroyed their reproductive systems in like nuclear war. Like that's why grays don't have the ability to reproduce, because they destroyed their planet and their bodies through nuclear war, which is why, you know, we cannot have the same fate here on Earth. Some people say grays are just us down the timeline trying to save ourselves from making the same mistakes that we made. How horrifying would that be if you're looking at your future and your future is the gray aliens? But not that all of them are bad, but some of them are. Just like not all cats are bad, some of them are, you know? It's the same thing with like aliens or people or whatever, but you have certain contracts, whether it's a soul contract or your government signed your life away, and it's about saying what you do and don't consent to. So you only consent to interdimensionals of Christ consciousness. I only consent to interdimensionals of my highest and greatest good interacting with me. I only consent to interdimensionals that have empathy for humans, that care about humans, that care about my well-being. It's about setting your boundaries, what you do and don't consent to, so that you don't have like an alien experience and it's a negative one because you have evil or negative interdimensionals that are taking advantage of the contracts that you signed up for to better humanity. But that goes back to everything we were saying in the beginning about false consent, and it's like non-informed consent, which we have a lot of in our society today. So yeah, some of you are going to have an experience. And if you want certain interdimensionals to call upon that are really kind, I love the Hathors. Like Hathor is a goddess in ancient Kemet, yes, but it's an entire race and species, just like the Ashira. Ashira is Ashira, she's technically a goddess, but she's an entire species. She's she, female, Ra, the sun god, Ra, the birdman, the bird head. And a lot of the Kemetics, they're either from Sirius or they're from Lyra, like the lion-headed people or the bird-headed people. Like Or you don't even have to be bird-headed, wings with talons, like what the Bible would call an angel, right? So that, to me, that's a bird person. And it's either a Ra or it's an Ashira. So if you want to call upon a really loving interdimensional species, there are like the Hathors. I love working with the Hathors. They're like really nice, and they support, they only do things through consent and through Christ consciousness. If you want to work, I also have worked with like Ra, like basically they're like of the same species, like they're eagle-headed male interdimensionals of Christ consciousness, of the light frequency, so you can call upon them. But you know, people like to work with the Arcturians. The Arcturians aren't very empathetic. A lot of people like, but they're still like usually follow the laws of the universe, right, and of consent and stuff. The Lyrians can be really great teachers. Syrians can be really great teachers. But it's just, if you want a safe bet and you want like a physical experience that you know that they're gonna consent, like, and not take advantage of you, call on the Hathors. They're beautiful, divine, feminine, like nurturing mother frequency, and I have never had a bad experience with the Hathors. So, and look up Hathor, the goddess from ancient Kemet, to understand the attributes of the Hathors. Hey Robin, hey Lizzie, hey Underdog Tarot. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe. Yes, thank you. Also, thank you for the super chats. Thank you, We're Divine. Let me scroll up and find them. Oh, maybe I can't find them all. Well, thank you. If they like ran out, like I can't see who did it, but thank you guys. Thank you for those of you who gave me the super chats. It's much appreciated. I had a dream about an alien trying to kiss me, and bro was slimy and glowing. Ew! Nasty! Even a lot of cartoon aliens are slimy, especially the Simpsons and Futurama. That's like putting, like how they say truth is stranger than fiction. They'll like put stuff like that, and they'll hide truth within like fiction and entertainment, because that's false consent, right? And it's also predictive programming. Hey, the Hood Scientist. How can we use crystal, and how do they work? Please explain. If you want to book a reading with me, Govind, you can totally do that. I'm sure there's lots of free content on YouTube about how crystals work. I accept this healing. Yay, good. My cat Quigley is loving this sample. Yay, I love when the cats love my healings. Quigley is the cutest name. It is a very cute name. Thus the famous line, "E tu, Brute," even you, Brutus? See, I don't know that. I'm gonna have to look up the lore around that, because I don't really know it. Oh, We're Divine gave all the super chats. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And thank you, moderators, for keeping the weirdos out of the chat. This lady really did talk quite a bit today. Yes, I did. I can't help it. I always talk a lot. All right, well, when you grieve a living person, you have the power to genuinely give yourself and others the love you wish they had given you. Wow, that's really powerful, Robin. Danny, I choose myself, love. I didn't come here to play games on my life and do all kinds of shit that screwed me over from the start of all this work and never receive anyone or anything. Exactly. Choose yourself. You're the only person living your life. I just saw a hawk being attacked mid-air by several crows, then it flew higher and they left. That is And it is a message, Underdog Tarot. It's a message we keep getting on the Patreon. So I'm going to close on this. There's always going to be evil. There's always going to be negativity. There's always going to be haters. And there's always going to be people who are trying to tear you down. What you have to do is vibrate higher than it. And this is something that I learned when I learned about how St. Patrick was like chasing all the pagans and all the he was chasing all the elementals, like the fairies, the gnomes, the dragons. He chased them all out of Ireland, or he murdered them. There was one that she just vibrated so, I think her name was Anne, actually. A-I-N-E. She was a dragon fae, so a dragon fairy, and she vibrated so high that she didn't leave Ireland, but her vibration was so high that he couldn't see her because his vibration was so much lower than hers. So that hawk being attacked by all these crows, it raised itself above. I just heard that song, "You Raise Me Up." It raised itself up so high that that gaggle of crows couldn't touch it anymore. So that's a really good way to end this, that it's like there's always going to be this, like I said, evil and negativity is a dime a dozen in this world. Choose to be of the higher frequency, choose to be of Christ consciousness, choose to be of the light, because that's what the world needs. And if you can vibrate it above it all, and that's what I was talking about too, how like once you really stop letting people walk all over you, those kind of people and those kind of lessons aren't going to show up in your life anymore because you're just not accepting it and you're vibrating above it, right? Like with the example I gave of like changing my number when my abusive ex called. If he ever called now, I'd probably literally call the police and be like, yep, I have an old restraining order out on this guy. And you know what I mean? Like it's just block. You're blocking it. You're blocking it energetically. You're blocking it physically. It's not allowed in your life anymore because you're rising above it and you're vibrating higher than it, so it can't touch you anymore. So hey Teresa, either a hawk or a bald eagle like at least 3 times while watching a Divinity live. I love that. I saw a turkey vulture today and I was like, oh, Aset, like Isis is with us. It was very cool. Subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of the next time Dutch goes live. Yes, thank you. All right, well, I am going to go now. All right, I love you guys. Take care. I hope you liked that. And yeah, talk to you soon. And keep an eye out for my next pick a card. All right, I love you. Bye.